My name is Madhavan Pisharodi, and I wrote this book, Corona Be Not Proud, um, which was published a month ago, and it is now available on Amazon. But it's the work of my 4.5 years of research into this area. And the book writing started probably about 6 months ago.
Well, can you pick up the book and show us it,
Yes,
and so we can see what the title is? So it's called Corona Be Not Proud.
that's right.
What's the book about, Doctor?
It's about airborne pathogens, specifically about the coronavirus that rampage through the globe in 2020 to 2024, and now it's kind of settled down. And when it came first in January of 2020, there were so many opinions given about how the virus spreads and all those things, and I got little surprised how such experts are talking about these things in a unscientific way. So I wrote an article about that, and that I wrote in February, and it was sent out for publication, and eventually about 4 months later it was published in the local newspaper. But just telling you about that article, I hate to start a chapter by saying I told you so. In reality, it is the truth. What I am really concerned about is that I may have to say it again in the coming future. So I wrote a letter in February of 2020, and most of the experts have switched their flip-flop their opinions about how the virus spreads and all that. Almost 5 years later, I don't have to change anything of what I wrote in February of 2020.
So what's in the book? So
That article is here is included in the book, so people can verify that what I said in 2020 relates to this virus and other airborne pathogens, and it is going to be applicable to future also. And for example, one thing that probably people have not focused very clearly is that virus infection is different from bacterial infection. When you talk about infection, virus and bacteria, they all combine it together. It's not. They're different. The main difference is the bacterial infection is extracellular. It's in the blood, tissue fluid, and everywhere in the body. Virus is intracellular. It doesn't start working until it gets into the cell. Once it gets into the cell, it takes over the function of the cell. It doesn't allow our normal function to continue anymore. The virus takes over. So I have written in the book that there are some bacteria that can get into the cell also, but there is a fundamental difference. The virus is the pilot of the cell plane, whereas the other bacteria are just passengers in the plane. You understand? So there's a big difference. And not only that, when you give antibiotics, you can kill the bacteria or fungus or whatever, and they get their bag and baggage and they leave. To kill the virus, you have to kill your own cell because the virus is inside the cell. And what other condition you can think of when you're talking about killing your cell to get rid of the problem? Cancer. So I am making this theory, bacterial infection on one end, cancer on the other end, virus infection come right in the middle. So virus infection is not like any other infection. It is, you have to have a special approach to that. And that, in other words, and when there is, to add to this problem, when the bacteria are gone, they're gone. The virus stays inside the body. They are permanent residents. Once they get into your body, they stay there. You have heard of chicken pox producing shingles later, or the herpes virus never getting cured, or the HIV never getting cured. You cannot get rid of the virus from the body. Once they get in, they are there. They may lie low for a while, but when they get the chance, they come out again. So again, our approach to bacterial infection and viral infection, they are not even close. They are totally different. So in the case of viral infection, I have postulated that the treatment is not the vaccines or antivirals and all those things, because that is killing the problem after it is already established, and it will never get killed. You have to block it from coming into the body. And that is what I have put in this book. There is a clear way where you can stop the virus getting into your body. You could kill the virus in the air. So the air you breathe will not have a virus. In the pandemic, 3 things made this pandemic so wild. One is airborne infection. Aerosol spread. It spreads through the air. WHO from the very beginning kept saying it's spray-borne. You have to be standing in front of the person spitting out the virus, then only you get infected. If you're away, 6 feet away, oh, don't worry about it, it won't bother you. And many scientists kept telling WHO, please, don't take a stand like this in the world field, because other people, governments are wasting their resources building plexiglasses and other things, whereas they should be addressing the problem as it is a airborne infection, aerosol spread. And in that case, the most effective treatment prevention is ventilation. Ventilation was aggressively advised in the Asian countries, but we kind of blocked that because there is a reason for that. I will explain that. But then eventually, after 2 years, WHO finally agreed, oh yes, it is. But by the time, how many people died? And so the ventilation theory slowly came from the Asian countries to the Western world. But by the time it came, its enthusiasm died out, and the need for it also died out. So here we have the air conditioning. Air conditioning and free ventilation are not going together. You cannot have through and through air circulation when there is air conditioning. That's a fundamental thing. And instead of that, say, our agency is telling, hey, oh, now you have to ventilate the air condition. How is it possible? It's not possible, because for the air condition to be effective, you have to seal all the airflow into the area. In my mind, a air conditioned unit, whether it is a car or a building, is an air balloon, completely separated from the ambient air, only connected through the inlet of air and outlet of the air. So it's a balloon with an inlet and an outlet. That's all. And you cannot ventilate through that. So there's some disadvantages with that and some advantages with that. So anyway, coming back to the 3 reasons for the spread of the pandemic being so wild. One was that there was uh, the airborne infection that was neglected, and and that was a serious problem, really. Uh, Second one was asymptomatic spread. Lot of people, lot of scientists mention that, and New Jersey Medical Society even said that this is the Achilles heel of pandemic management for COVID-19. The asymptomatic spread. In other words, a percentage of people who gets infected, they have the virus infection, they have no symptoms. Another group of people, they get infected and they are building their symptoms. So there is a period from the time they got infected till the time they get the symptoms. There is a period during which they are infective, but there are no symptoms. So there is a pre-symptomatic stage and asymptomatic patients. Overall, minimum 50% of infection came from people like this. In the beginning of the 20th century, there was one lady, her name is Typhoid Mary. She harbored a typhoid infection in her gallbladder or somewhere, and she was spreading it. Asymptomatic. She's asymptomatic, but she can spread it to people. About somewhere around 20 people died because of her. But she was the maid for rich people, so they got real good attention, and they put her in isolation. Finally, for the last 25 years of her life, she was in solitary confinement somewhere in New York. So anyway, that is for one person. And now compare that to the COVID pandemic. There were millions and millions of people who were in the same state. They are asymptomatic, they are spreading it. I call them COVID Marys and COVID Harrys. You understand? So that is the second major reason the infection spread so fast, because you will be going to the supermarket talking to a person thinking he is healthy, but he may be giving you them. The third thing, that is my pet project, air conditioners. In 1918, Spanish flu, US death rate compared to the global death rate was 1.35%. 1.35%. The US population is about 4.5% of the whole world. The COVID pandemic, our death rate was 17% of the global deaths. How did we deteriorate from 1.35 to 17%? Something that happened in the 20th century. What happened in the 20th century? We invented the air conditioners. And air conditioners are very useful. A lot of lives have been saved. But in the context of this pandemic, the experts totally missed it. This was actually acting as a vector. Air conditioners contributed to the pandemic. And I will explain that to you. There is what is called relative humidity. You have to be really studying that to understand that. Relative humidity is how much the percentage of humidity in the air compared to what it can hold. So that's different in cold weather and hot weather. In hot weather, the relative humidity with the Amount of humidity is called absolute humidity. So amount of humidity is the same. Relative humidity is the percentage of the humidity to the humidity that the air can hold. So in hot weather, with the same absolute humidity, the relative humidity will go down because that hot air can hold more water. That's why we dry our wet clothes in the hot sun. You understand? So relative humidity in cold areas will be high with the same absolute humidity. Now comes the problem. In hot weather, we try to cool the room, right? And hot air always stays on the top of the room. So when the conventional rooms have the air coming down from the ceiling and air going out through the ceiling, that hot air has no reason to come down to the ground, bounce back and go, because hot air always keeps the top of the room. So for you to get the desired temperature in the lower level, you have to turn up the temperature thing higher and higher. That's why there is more cost for heating in cold weather. That is one part. The other thing is the absolute humidity is always low in the air-conditioned buildings because the water is taken out by the air conditioners. This is why when you move from a air-conditioned building or car to outside, your glasses fog up because the humidity is low, absolute humidity is low in the air-conditioned building. But when you consider the problem with our present air conditioner, in cold weather, this gets even worse because the absolute humidity is the same, but the temperature is different higher up and lower down. And lower down, the air is slower and cooler with the same absolute humidity. And there has been a lot of scientific studies showing that the virus likes low humidity. The virus likes cold weather to a certain extent. If you freeze it, that goes beyond. But within a range, it likes cold weather, cold thing. And also it doesn't like air drought. It likes stagnant air. Now, where do you get the stagnant air the most? Think of this. You have your air conditioner automatic fan, right? And when the room temperature reaches the outside temperature, irrespective of the outside temperature, when the room temperature that you set is reached that level, the fan turns off. That's why it is called automatic fan. Where is the air moving at that time? Absolutely nothing. The air is stuck. This is the ideal situation for the virus to grow, multiply, and infect. And where is the worst thing? The lower part of the room. That's where the wheelchairs and patient beds are. And that's why the people got infected.